So this video will be about 5 more things that I missed when I was inside Japan about Germany. And if you didn't watch the first part, I will put it somewhere here or there, I don't know, you will see it, where I already gave you 3 things that I missed about Germany. So let's get started. If you don't know me, my name is Hiramiki Insights, at least on my social media channels. And my goal with this channel or with this project is to help you experience, connect and interact with Japan and Japanese people inside and outside Japan. And I think in this video, when I share my contrast as a German that went to Japan, I can kind of help you to understand the Japanese everyday culture a bit more, or the Japanese, let's say, real life. Because there are some advantages, but if there are some advantages, there are also some disadvantages. And this time I will talk about some things that I missed about Germany and that I couldn't have in Japan. The first thing that I wrote here is the summer culture in Japan. So basically I watched some videos about Japan too, and one person mentioned it one time, and when I think about it, yeah, that's kind of accurate. Because in Japan, for example, it is pretty hot. And with pretty hot, I mean it gets to 40 degrees sometimes. And I just remember it, I was in Nagoya at that time and it was about 40 degrees hot. And the thing is, at Nagoya, there's no wind. So those 40 degrees, it feels like you're a chicken inside an oven or something, really. It's like unbelievable, you're like sweating constantly. I was really worried about like my health condition because I never sweat that much in my life. But anyway, that is the thing. In Japan, it's really hot outside. So if you want to do something in the summertime, usually you will do it inside somewhere or you will not go outside at all. So usually it will cost you much money if you want to do some things. And then you have the contrast between the like 40 degrees and the burning sun. And then you go into some like supermarket, for example, or maybe you go to a cafe and it's like 16 degrees and there with an aircon that's like pumping out cold air the whole time, and you just feel like the vegetable in a freezer. So on one moment you're the chicken in the oven and the other moment you're like a broccoli in the freezer. And that was something that kind of made me feel really uncomfortable in summer. And when I thought about the summertime I had in Germany, so usually Germans really like to go outside when it's summer because it's not that hot too. And there are 2 things that we do often, I think, is either we go to a sea, like not the big sea, like a smaller one, like a pond but bigger. I forgot the word in English. But anyway, we go there and then we hang out there and maybe we go for a swim or maybe we play some volleyball. We just enjoy it that time. So usually you don't need anything. You just need a hand to carry like the big basket of beer, but that's basically everything. And the other thing is that usually we like to do barbecue. So in Japan, what I never saw is that people do barbecue outside or at their home. But I mean, you have restaurants where you can go and do the barbecue. But I kind of like this thing that you go to the supermarket together and then you're carrying that like grill and go to the park and then just have some barbecue. And I don't know how it's in your country. You can maybe write it down in the comments. But I really missed this kind of thing because in Japan, I don't know, I always felt like I need to pay much money when I go outside. And most of the time, I didn't really want to go outside because it was so hot. And another thing, if you talk about the summer culture, also in Germany, for example, in summer in general, we don't have that many insects. So in Japan, when it gets hot and it's humid, it's like the best environment or the best living condition for an insect. So in the summertime, you live more comfortable as an insect than as a human. And in Germany, I felt like it's different. So that's maybe another thing that you can say about like summertime in Germany. So that's one thing I really missed. And another thing is Christmas, for example. I think I like Christmas too in Japan, but it's just the thing that Christmas in Germany and in Japan is different. And it has a fundamental difference. Because in Germany, you spend Christmas with your family. You go back to your home, you maybe see your family, you see your relatives, you maybe just see one time in a year. But in Japan, it's just for meeting your girlfriend. And I don't know, I was happy to see my girlfriend, of course, but I kind of missed that time sitting together with my family because usually, I don't know, of course you can visit your family like this too, but if you have like a general meeting every year, and in Germany or in my family it's Christmas, and you suddenly don't have it in Japan, then I don't know, it doesn't feel that nice or that nice kind of Christmas thing. And the thing that adds to Christmas is that German Christmas markets are really cool. So basically in Japan, the Christmas markets, you have them there too, influenced by Germany, by the way. But I kind of felt like the German Christmas markets are better. Right now, they're pretty expensive too, but I mean, you can drink some Glühwein or some Kinderpunsch. I don't know if there's an English translation for this. You can eat really many things like sweets, like fruits with chocolate around it or stuff like this. There are really many small places, like small shops that, for example, sell candles for with like Christmas flavor. Maybe they sell some teas, and that's some things that you really just see one time a year. And for example, in my city that I live in right now, in Düsseldorf, you have many small Christmas markets inside the town. So you go to this part of the town and have a small Christmas market. You go to this part of the town and have a small Christmas market. And when I was around the region in Tokyo, it was just such a big place that it didn't feel that cool like in Düsseldorf, for example. Because you just go inside the city and then you walk from Christmas market to Christmas market, kind of like, I don't know how would you call it in English, like Christmas market hopping. And yeah, that was something that I really missed in Japan. And another thing is the German Autobahn, so the German highway. So I actually had a driving license in Japan. I made it for like 30 euros in Germany, an international license. And actually, they told me at my university I'm not allowed to drive the car. And that is basically the most cruelest thing you can do to a German, to tell him he cannot drive a car. Uh, I don't know. But anyway, I really wanted to drive. Um, and but I couldn't drive in Japan, but I had the chance to drive in a car of some friends in Japan. And at least around Tokyo, it was like this. It's so crowded that sometimes when you drive in a highway, for example, you have the highway where you drive, and then you have like some wall on your left and on your right, and above you is another highway. So you have like two highways above each other, and you just kind of feel locked. So at many places when driving in Japan, everything felt so small. I mean, it makes sense because Japan consists of 70 to 80% mountains. So of course they have to make everything more smaller or more compact. But this kind of felt a bit, I don't know, I didn't feel free enough, I would say, in the car. And another thing, driving in Japan is actually really, really expensive. So in Japan, when you drive the car, you have to pay to enter the street. I think in Italy, for example, you have it too, but in Germany, you don't have it. So in Germany, you just enter the highway, and it doesn't matter which highway you enter, you don't pay money for this. So the only thing you need to pay is your car, and that's it. And I had it too in Japan too, that I wanted to visit some place at Hakone, like that lake there. And just to go on that platform, to have a nice view on that lake, I didn't needed to pay money to enter that platform. I needed to pay 10 euros just to drive the, like, in total 10 minutes road to go to that platform. And for me, this was kind of, I don't know, shocking as a German. And when you drive to many places in Japan, it can get quite expensive. So if you see a person with a car in Japan, you can expect that person to have kind of much money. Because I think in general, having a good car requires some money, but also in Japan, I think it's much, much more expensive to have a car. And yeah, that is something that I missed in Germany. Because I think in Germany, when you drive on the Autobahn, the first thing is you can see much more. So because Germany doesn't have that many mountains, you have much more space and you can see like the scenery. I mean, you should look on the road, but I mean, while you drive, you can see the scenery. And another thing is also you don't have a speed limit. So in Japan, for example, you can just drive until 100 kilometers per hour. Like no one is following that rule, for example. Like actually, I saw so many people drive 120 kilometers an hour. But what if you want to drive 160? What if you want to drive 250? And since I came back to Germany, I drove the car again and I drove about like 200 kilometers again per hour. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Like I don't know, you just like I don't know, for a German 100 kilometers an hour don't feel fast enough. Um, yeah, and that is something that I actually kind of missed. I don't know if you maybe live in a more remote location. Maybe it's not that expensive to enter the road, and maybe because there are not so many buildings as in Tokyo, maybe you have a much nicer scenery too. I remember that I drove to Tochigi, the Tochigi prefecture, and there, for example, in some places that were more like remote, there I had some nice views too. But in general, I can say that driving in Germany still in general had much nicer views or sceneries than in Japan. Um, but yeah, doesn't mean that you don't have it in Japan, just in my personal opinion, it felt a bit different. And another thing, when I thought about this point, I thought, I really forget about this point in my last video. And I was like, how could I forgot that? So basically in Japan you have that like holy toilet, right? And like it does everything for you. You can play sounds, it gets a heater, some has a message function and so on. And there's also this kind of water spray that goes, you know what I mean. And basically this toilet is really cool, I have to say, but when you start to use the toilet paper, that's the point where you kind of start to feel a bit weird, at least for me as a German, because the toilet paper in Japan is really, really thin. So that means first you pay so much money for toilet paper because you need so much, and the other one is it. I don't know. I don't want to explain this in detail, but it doesn't feel right. So it's the same also with tissues for your nose, for example. They're all pretty thin. So when you really sneeze out everything of your nose, like your whole tissue is like destroyed. So I don't know, for me, I felt more comfortable in Germany with having like tissue paper that doesn't just have one sheet, but four sheets, for example, or some tissues for your nose that kind of just feel like a tissue, and not just some paper that will um, be destroyed instantly. So I don't know, that is one thing that I kind of missed from Germany. I had a German friend, for example. Um, he talked to his mother, and his mother brought him like a whole luggage with toilet paper from Germany. So I don't know, maybe there's some other countries that have similar toilet paper to Japan, but yeah, I don't know. I miss the German toilet paper. Maybe that's something that should be exported to other countries. I don't know. And now we come to the fifth point. And this is basically about the like German diet. If you watch my video about stereotypes, maybe you will think that Germans just eat bread and beer. And although it's much of their diet, there are also some other things that I kind of missed in Japan. And the first thing, if we just talked about bread, let's keep talking about bread, is I don't know, I felt that if you grow up in a certain country, your body gets used to the food you eat there. So, for example, Germany, in the morning you eat bread with like cheese or something else. And in Japan, for example, you don't really eat bread in the morning. You will more likely have like a miso shiro, like a miso soup, rice, and a fish. And of course, both meals are healthy in their own way, but because I didn't have my original diet in Germany, I could feel that I got some problems with my like stomach. So the first thing was the bread, for example. If I wanted to buy like I don't know, in Germany we have also dark or like more strong bread. In Japan, bread feels more like a dessert, I would say, more sweet. That's one thing I didn't like. And the other thing is that if I wanted to get the dark bread, I needed to drive all the way to Tokyo. So the other thing is that, so if I wanted to have some German bread, I needed to drive all the way to Tokyo to get it. And also, it's much more expensive than in Germany. So and there's not that much variety as in Germany, for example. There's some bread in Germany with like some many seeds inside it. Maybe if I find a picture, I can put it somewhere. This was really tasty actually. And because I couldn't find it in Japan, I was a bit sad. But yeah, that is one thing that I missed in my diet. Another thing is something like cheese, for example. There are many different cheeses, and I know Germany is not the most best country for cheese. I think if you go to Italy or France, for example, you can find even better cheese, but still you have some kind of variety. And also, it feels like cheese. So, yeah, for example, the cheese that I bought in Japan, I didn't really feel like it's tasted that good, and it didn't really feel like cheese for me, to be honestly. So you can buy some better cheese in Japan somewhere maybe, but in the usual normal supermarket, I didn't feel like the cheese quality is that good. And another thing that I was missing is that when you, for example, when you drink some beer or when you just want to have some snacks, then in Japan you have many snacks like dried squid or peanuts or like rice crackers. There's really many things. But in Germany, for example, you will maybe have some pretzel or some cheese, or you will have some like dried sausages, for example. And one thing that I missed in Japan is that this dried meat that they have, I don't know, in for an American or for other people, like beef jerky, for example. Like those things you can have like kind of a snack. But in Japan, for example, it's not that tasty. So I tried it one time, but it didn't really taste good. And to be honest, it was just so dry that it didn't even give me the feeling that it was actually meat. So that was kind of sad. So since I came back to Germany, I started to eat more dried meat, for example, because we don't really had it there in Japan. And that was something that I also missed. And I don't know, I think it's similar for everyone that goes to Japan. If you're used to the kitchen or to the foods inside your country, then it's kind of, I don't know, weird maybe to live without it. In general, I can tell you that the Japanese food was much more tasty to me than the German food. But sometimes I just felt like tasting the food that I tasted back home. That was the second point that was missing for me since I went to Japan. So if you want to have another video on what I miss about Germany when I was in Japan, just write it down in the comments. And yeah, if you want to know more about the life in Japan or how Japan works, if you want to have some knowledge for yourself to, like I said in the introduction, to experience, connect and interact with Japan and Japanese people inside and outside of Japan, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and to stay updated for the upcoming videos. And my current schedule for now is that I have a new video on Monday and about 3 community posts with some general knowledge about Japan. So if you want to know more about Japan, just wait for the next Monday for the next video or read my community posts. And as always, thank you for listening. Have a great day. また今度よろしくね。